All right, we are recording. You are coming into the brainchild that has already started in our pre recording conversation. I am here with Dr. Robin L. Smith. She is a champion, a complete and total lifelong champion of mental wellness, of mental health initiatives, and she is a fierce advocate of the truth, and she has no problem saying it. We love her so. I love you so. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, Kimberly, thank you so much. I love you back and love you more and honor you. We won't necessarily get into our rich beginning, our rich and honest beginning. And, I carry how we came together in such a special way. It's a reminder of how fiercely honest you are.
Thank you.
And I love that about you, that you are a comrade of mine and a healer. And so I am honored always to be with you. When you said, "Can you come?" I said, "Of course. Let's do this." And if there was ever a time to bring your brilliant calling to the table and inviting, what I bring, certainly the time is now. So thank you.
Amen. Thank you so much. I appreciate your yes, your continuous yes. I hold you near and dear because you allowed me to be transparent. You allowed me to openly speak my truth and then met me there, and it is a wonderful feeling to have comrades, to have friends in that place.
Yes.
Today we're talking about mind matters. We are talking about reconnecting our mind to our bodies, our souls to our hearts, all of the things that have begun to kind of just float away into the atmosphere because of the time and the space that we live in. We are called to speak up, to speak loud, but we are also called to be dutiful stewards of our persons, of our bodies, and of our hearts.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to figure out just where that sweet spot of that lives as we continue to move forward in a space and a place that calls us to be loudly quiet for ourselves.
I love
And
that.
so that is the conversation today. I think we have lived in this almost infinite like feeling of dysregulation since a time in November when we knew there would be a great shift. I knew there would be a great shift. I can't say that I imagined it would be this, though I knew it would be real.
Mm-hmm.
And from that moment, my mind has said, prepare, get ready. What is it that you need to do for yourself, but also because I feel charged to be here for my community as well. Tell me how you have been feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I will say very similar to you and many people, there has been a sense of the ground being removed, the ground that I counted on, the ground that was a sturdy foundation. And sturdy foundation does not mean that there were not ups and downs and, a lot of twists and turns. But as you said, not like this,
Mm-hmm.
not in my lifetime, not in this way. And what I have found is that what this season of life has required of me is that I know how to go within,
Mm-hmm.
to be still. And I said to you before we went live, to be still and to still move. And so there is, when we are traumatized, when we are scared, when we are afraid, there's a little thing in a little big thing in the back of our skull called the amygdala, the brain. And it's a little kind of almond shaped, maybe irregularly almond shaped, powerful part of our brain. It's the old brain. And it's the part of the brain that knows only danger or safety. It knows to fear or that it is safe, or it experiences itself as afraid or safe, that we are in danger or we are safe. So we can either freeze, we can flee, we can fight. Sometimes people call it the fight or flight, and they forget the freeze part, because there is a part of us that can become paralyzed when we are scared. And fear is interesting. It's important. It's necessary. If a car is coming toward you, you want to step out of the way. You don't want to be hit by the car. It is also possible that we can be afraid of something that hasn't happened. We can increase our fears. If you say to someone, I have a whole bag of snakes, and you're in a room, and I'm in a room giving a talk, and I tell them, in this bag are live snakes, people will start moving and squirming and leaving to protect themselves. And I might then tell them 5 minutes later or an hour later, I'd say, will someone come and open the bag with me? And people were like, no, I don't want to do that. And so I get some brave person, or maybe no brave person, maybe people who are protective of themselves. But I open the bag and they see that there's nothing in it. And so their bodies have responded, their brains, the amygdala has responded to something that had not yet happened, but their brain and their body experienced it as real.
Right.
And so in this moment, in this country, and in this world, it's not only this country, it's in the world, we are both dealing with things that are real, that have happened, the snakes that are actually in the bag, and then we are afraid and traumatized by that which we imagine could get worse than it is already.
Right.
And so I have made a commitment for my own practice to make sure that I am both surrounded by people who are supportive and like-minded, people who are managing their own internal worlds very differently than living in reactivity.
Right.
We have to be very careful, because then we are on the other end of somebody else's string that they are pulling. And I don't want to be on somebody else's string that they are pulling. So what I've been doing is making a personal commitment to myself, to my family, to my community, to make sure that I am grounding myself in what is actually happening. And then asking, what is it that I need to do to protect my mind, my sanity? Because we're talking about, people are feeling like they're losing it. And so how do we take back, how do we reclaim our birthright to be internally safe, even if the world is externally going mad?
Right. It's you said a few things that are like really, really I want to kind of hone in on. One of them is this overwhelming feeling of vicarious grief that I experience. And as an empath, I know that you feel it too. There's so many of us that internalize what is happening. We are people who have dedicated our lives to service in one way or another. And it's almost like the lotion that we put on, right? And it's the feelings that we take on and we feel, and it's it can get overwhelming.
Mhm.
For the other empaths out there, for the other service-driven individuals out there, how do we protect ourselves as we, put our whole bodies in the way of the train?
Yeah, yeah. I love that question because you're asking, how can I be me
Mhm.
and survive,
Mhm.
and not just survive, but thrive as an empath, as a caregiver, and someone who is um, in the line of the train coming. And so what is step one? And step one, I was thinking about this, my radio show, the Dr. Robbins Show on Sirius XM. I was talking about self-care
Mhm.
and how important it is that what we are looking for from the outside world, we give ourselves first. And it is so hard to do. And yet it is a non-negotiable if we are to not just survive, but thrive and have something to give, something for the fight.
Mhm.
There isn't anything that I can give if I myself am running on empty. And so I think of the quote many of us have heard, "I'll sleep when I die."
Mhm.
When Vice President Harris was, running for the presidency, not from her, but from her running mate. And I get it. I mean, I get that, I've got to show up for active duty. And yet, we need to understand that rest is resistance, and
Mhm.
sleep and joy
Mhm.
are actually part of our armor. And we
Mhm.
don't know that. We don't know that actually when we are sleeping, literally asleep, our bodies are recalibrating. Our body and your body and everyone who is listening and watching, your body needs sleep because the organs in your body, they get to both rest and work. They get to be attended to and taken care of so that when we awaken, they can go back on active duty. My liver can go back on active duty. My brain and my heart and my pancreas, so they need time to rest. Well, if my liver needs time to rest and my pancreas and my ovaries, if we still have them, and all of these different parts of us, our veins and our capillaries need time to rest, time to relax, time to go offline.
Mhm.
Surely I need that. And so do you. And so this call to self-care is something for us to recognize as empaths, as people who are on the front line or maybe in the middle or maybe carrying up the back.
Mhm.
That I'm asking today, what are you doing for yourself that fills your tank, refills your tank with joy, with rest, and to realize that that is a part of winning this fight. If we have no joy, we have no strength. If we have no rest and no sleep, we forget that prisoners, unfortunately, are often not only denied food, they are denied, some of the things that make us feel respected.
Yes.
But what they are denied first is sleep.
Mhm.
Because when we lose sleep, and I know I can speak to this for myself, when I haven't gotten enough rest, enough sleep, not just rest, but sleep, I'm off.
Yes.
And the more that goes on, the more off I become. And the less on I can be, not just for myself, but for all of those people I have been called to serve. And so if we want to care for our families, care for our communities, care for, those who are marginalized, whatever that means, it must actually start with caring for the self first.
Amen. I love that you use that analogy because I'm a nurse, and
Yes.
so that was a great analogy for me. And I'll add to that Our breath rate is at its lowest when we sleep. Our heart
Yes.
rate, it
Mm-hmm.
is at its lowest when we sleep. And that's relevant because the moment that you start beating your heart in utero, it's working. It is a muscle. It
Yes.
is, it is working for your body and for the duration of your life. And so it is all of those things. Your brain needs rest. I just said to a friend of mine 2 days ago, I I have decision making fatigue. I can't, like, I know it's 5 o'clock in the evening, but I'm done with decisions for today.
Mm-hmm.
Cannot make a good decision right now. I am too fatigued to do so.
Yeah.
And I had to acknowledge my state at that moment, and then give myself the grace to sit in that and not feel like I needed to overcome that space in that moment, because sometimes it's hard to leave something for the next day,
Yes.
you
Well,
know and so
particularly hard to leave something for the next day when we've made up a story, and this is important. We've made up a story that there is something lacking in me if I can't, and I, don't like to use the word hate, but when it fits, it fits. I hate the phrase power through.
mm,
And I hate the phrase because I know what it means. I know we've all done it, but
mhm,
no one talks about the price
right.
of powering through. And the story that I've made up, that those people who power through
Mhm,
are stronger. When they ignore themselves, they have something that I don't have. Instead of a new story that
mhm,
shows a more excellent way, that says, I'm actually coming offline, as you just shared, Kimberly, at 5 p.m. because I have decision making, and I would call it battle fatigue.
yes.
Battle fatigue. And so, if we have this fantasy about soldiers, and a
Mhm,
real soldier who has been in active combat would tell you that they must find a way for someone to come off the line and rest and
yeah.
feel protected for some amount of time so they can be renewed enough to go back into active combat.
Yep.
It is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of wisdom to
Mm,
know that I need a minute here or two, and I can get someone to cover my post so that we can take turns. And so this is I love that you're bringing this up. Can we create right here, right now, a new narrative
mm,
about what it means when I am fatigued? And can we call it wisdom instead of weakness?
right.
I mean,
Right.
it's powerful to know
Absolutely.
that I need to lay myself down and
Mhm,
take a rest. It is, and that I will be renewed and restored so that when I awaken, figuratively and literally, the
mhm,
next day, I will have something more to give and to offer that had I ignored myself and just powered through
mhm.
would be missing.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna tell you, I have historically been queen of the arbitrary deadline.
Yes.
Like, the deadline pops into my head, and it is as concrete as concrete. And it I struggle with commitment to myself and others, and being able to say, even to those I know will understand, you know, even having to say, Dr. Robin, can we push back by 30 minutes? It was painful for me to even have to ask that question. And I used to say things like, I'm Kim. I keep it moving. Those are my initials. Like, what else am I going to do? Right. But keeping it moving, like you said, was to the detriment of every part of me, from the cellular level to the soul level. And,
Mhm.
and just having to accept that, as strong as I am, I need to sit down sometimes.
Yeah. And that part of your strength is in relanguaging
Mm.
the difference between weakness and wisdom, because one might suggest today, and I'm the one who is suggesting, and I love the keep it moving, but the question is, keep it moving, Kim and Dr. Robin and everyone else who is listening, keep it moving toward what?
Right.
Toward my destruction?
Right.
Toward my fatigue in a way that there's nothing left of me? What example am I setting not only for other people, but we know this, that we teach people how to treat us
Yes.
by several things. One, by what we accept, but also before by what we accept from others.
Right.
We teach people how to treat us by how we treat ourselves.
Yes.
And how I see myself. And so if I see myself and I romanticize that the person who seems to just never take a break, that there is something remarkable about that person. There's something remarkable about that leader who doesn't ever rest.
Yes.
Well, there is something remarkable about their lack of love for themselves. And we don't think about that. We're, again, fantasizing that the person who seems to never run out of gas, but if we were to see them in their quiet hours. And that's why leaders, people like you and people like me and parents and pastors and professors need to tell the truth, not about other people only, but I need to say what happens when I'm on empty and how useless I can become, not only to other people, but to myself and ultimately to the cause of liberation, wellness, and freedom. And so I would love for people today to begin to think about, what is the new story I want to make up about wisdom and self-care? What's the new story I want to tell myself about self-neglect as a sign of weakness? That's where I am fragile, not where I am strong. And so it's a wonderful invitation for all of us to realize that we can write a new story about what it really means to manage and care for the self.
Yeah, that's good, because I'm gonna tell you, I'm queen of connecting Staten Island to the mainland. I can write a story in my mind like a champ. I wanna talk a little bit.
Kimberly, I just want to say one thing about that. You just said, I love that analogy. So I would just invite all of us in the stories that we make up to ask ourselves a question after we tell ourselves the story. Like, if I don't do this, my children are going to fail out of school because no one else is going to check their homework. If I don't do this, my in-laws are going to feel unloved and uncared. So whatever that catastrophizing story is that we, as you said, where we've connected the dots. So let's ask ourselves this brave and bold question. Is that true? After we've told ourselves something, to ask, is it true? And then the next question is, am I sure it is true? And the question after that is, how do I know that is true? Because what we're doing is dismantling the lies that we have told ourselves in our stories that are driving us into the ground.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, you were going to say, but I just want to challenge. I want to challenge my stories.
Yeah.
And let me just throw out a piece of something about me. A couple of weeks ago, we had bad storms. I'm here in Philadelphia, and the whole East Coast has been upside down, and the whole country, internally and externally, and the world has been weather-wise upside down. So I ended up broken down on the side of the road, and there's a whole long story that we don't have time for this time about that. But after I and the weather was terrible. It was late at night. It was very late. It was dangerous. I was on a highway where this happened.
Mm-hmm.
It was terrifying. And I called for help, and 911, and, you know, tow trucks came, and the state troopers came. But I had to look at how I ended up, whether it was that I was out of physical gas or my battery. So no one was sure. They said, we don't think it's gas. We think it's something else.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a warning light.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had a warning light that had come on and asked me how long I ignored that warning light. And so I just want to put out there that part of how I ended up where I ended up, sometimes we have no responsibility, but this time,
Mm-hmm.
and many times,
Mm-hmm.
we have contributed to where we land
Yes.
without gas, power, or whatever else it is. And so I tell my partner about this later.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, oh, well, and he goes to start making excuses for me. And I said, don't, because I can't learn from an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
I can learn if I have what I call the tools of compassion, curiosity, and accountability. How did I contribute to that moment of being broken down on the side of the road? How did we end up being broken down emotionally,
Right.
financially, spiritually, relationally? What is my part with compassion, with curiosity, and with accountability,
Yes.
so that I can do something and change it for the next time?
Amen. Like, that is a whole word. That's a sermon in and of itself. And it actually is a beautiful segue to the next part of what I want to talk about. You know, when we think about America's education, we don't get financial literacy. We don't get, you know, self-care. We don't get mental wellness. I think the closest thing we got when we were younger, and still when I was in school, was home ec, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that was still teaching people to take care of somebody else. It wasn't teaching you to take care of yourself. And I think one of the things that I very transparently struggle with, and I still talk to my therapist about till this day, is value and recognizing my own worth and operating in emotional intelligence through dysregulation. And that is a skill.
It is.
It is a skill, and it's a skill especially for those of us who have experienced the grief that this country has given us.
Mm-hmm.
How do we stay in a space of emotional intelligence at a time when every day is a new insult to our psyche?
Yeah. It's again, a beautiful question and a beautiful invitation for us to ponder. I want to unpack even being dysregulated, because people may hear that and think, well, what's that mean? You know, what does it mean for me to harness myself and care for myself when I'm dysregulated? So dysregulation, in a simplified way, is really talking about when we are triggered.
Yes.
When we are, again, when we're off, when we can't manage ourselves. So, and it could be because of something historical, in terms of historical trauma. One of the things you're mentioning that I also want to highlight is, what does it mean to be continually and continuously assaulted and someone denying that they are doing it? Because when you're talking about what's going on in the country,
yes,
it is not only the harm that is happening, but it's the denial of the harm. And so that can be crazy making. It can throw us off. It can make someone feel like either I'm off,
right,
or I'm weak, or I ought to be able to take this, and my reaction or overreaction has something again to do with my weakness.
right.
not my wellness.
Yes.
And so I want to reframe that when we are dysregulated, when we are triggered, when we have a hard time managing ourselves, the first part of that is to acknowledge that even if the perpetrator doesn't acknowledge their harm to you, you don't want to follow their example and deny what is true.
Right.
And so a piece of this is, how do I tell the truth to myself when a system, whatever that system is denying it?
And believe yourself.
And yes, and thank you for adding that. And believe yourself. So that is a part of the practice. And that's why I say that what we are talking about today, that mind matters, all of this has to do with, and you said this about having a therapist. You have a therapist and I have a therapist. Isn't that interesting that we sit with someone regularly, whatever that means, to explore what is going on in our internal world and how we can better not just say that we love ourselves, but actually have a practice of self-value and self-care. So one of the first things that I really suggest that we look at in terms of valuing the self is, how do you know when you value yourself and how do you know when you don't? Because a lot of times we are ashamed to admit that we may not actually believe ourselves, value ourselves. You know, we want to act as if, you know, I'm good and I'm good with my self-esteem. Well, I've got, again, a question. How do you know when you're feeling badly about you? What behaviors can you begin to identify that show that indeed you're actually running on empty?
That's right.
And you're not practicing a high value of you. And so if we cannot articulate, this is when I know that I am caring for myself and I value myself and I believe in myself. And this is how I behave when I don't.
Yes. And I challenge people with you to include in those things what we would view as mundane. The food we eat, the words we use, the water we do or don't drink, the exercise we don't engage in, the friends we don't call, the recluse we become. I challenge you to look at those things that seemingly don't account for how we're caring for ourselves.
And how we value.
Give.
Yes.
Really mean no.
Yes. Yes,
the
yes, yes.
Extension of ourselves that is at the detriment of ourselves. So look at all of those things.
No, I love that. And I love that you're inviting us into, as you said, the mundane, because in the mundane is the meaning.
Yes.
In the whether or not I have made time. I've written about this. I call it, and I'm going to do a whole offering called P First. And P First, and women can in particular really identify with this. How many times have we needed to literally pee in the morning? And then it was like, you know what? I'm going to go and let me do this and then I'll go to the bathroom. Let me take care of this. And then, I need to send this email. You know, and now it's lunchtime.
Yep.
And the next thing we know, we have we have forced our bladder to hold itself in a way that showed that I did not value myself enough to take 30 seconds or 120 seconds or however long it would take to go to the bathroom. And so I love when you are calling us to water, and then are we drinking it? How much are we drinking? Am I making an excuse that I haven't had time. And so that's why I said compassion. So I won't look at those parts of me, those broken parts of me, if I condemn myself,
Yes.
if I slander my name. Not just, we think about don't slander someone else. I'm like, yeah, but when's the last time you called yourself dumb or weak or, I'm just trifling, whatever we've said. So self-compassion and then curiosity to say, that's interesting. I did have to go to the bathroom 2 hours ago. I wonder what story did I tell myself that had me? And let me just say, I do this. I will find myself. Oh yeah, I will find myself.
Ladder.
This is what, look, I'm putting my business out today.
That's right.
And I will see, well, wait a minute, what story did you tell yourself? And then sometimes I will, hopefully more times than not now, I'll say, stop. And I want the audience to learn how to tell yourself with compassion, curiosity, and then the accountability action. Stop. And stop how you are moving right now. And ask yourself, does this show care and value and self-respect?
Yes, yes.
Or does it show that somehow I'm actually not treating myself with honor? And so we don't need to hate on ourselves. We just need to learn.
Yes.
And then move, again, to be still and still move. To be still and still move. To be still so I can hear my bladder and my body and my brain. And then decide what direction do I feel led to move that would mirror that I matter to me.
Yes. So we have about 5 minutes left because I honor and respect your time. I want to talk about our parts, literally. All of us, every human being on this earth walks around with parts, the parts that show up for us in different spaces. Those of us who have experienced trauma may have more parts than some other people because we've learned to adapt to spaces. Right now in this country, and for a very long time, we have operated in parts. There's a part that shows up at the workplace. There's a part that shows up with our family, with our children. And I know for me personally, I had to figure out what part of me was actually me. I had so many segments of myself. I wasn't sure who was me. And I think many of us are operating in part form for the things we talked about earlier, for safety, for fear, for anxiety, for depression, for all of those things. I want to talk about how to bring those parts back to center, reconnect our minds to our bodies, and remembering that we are one and that we are whole.
Yeah.
No matter how we feel we have to show up to survive outside our doors, that we can be true and complete inside our doors.
Yeah.
Figuratively and inside of our bodies.
Yeah. No, I mean, what a beautiful invitation, but also a challenge. And I'd like to add a word. It could be anxiety or depression or the things you mentioned, exhaustion. It also can be an addiction. And not just the drugs, alcohol, sex, shopping, gambling. But I want to challenge us as we talk about our parts and claiming all of ourselves, that many of us have become addicted to nursing and rehearsing our trauma. That can become an addiction in and of itself that keeps me fragmented and separated from my wholeness, because I'm somehow drawn to growing the parts of me that are diminished. I'm drawn to focusing and nursing and rehearsing on what is broken and not what is, as you just said, whole, even in my broken spaces and places.
Yes.
And so I want to just caution us that what we nurse and rehearse is what we grow.
Yes.
So we've got to decide today, or I invite us to decide today, that people join Kimberly, you and me on this quest and in this moment of making a decision that you're going to nurse and rehearse a new story, and a story that you are the narrative of. There's a quote in the book I wrote with the great Courtney B. Vance, The Invisible Ache, Black men identifying their pain and reclaiming their power. But there's a quote that I use probably everywhere I go, and so I would want to share it here. Is the lion's story will never be known as long as the hunter is the one to tell it.
That's right.
And sometimes we think that the hunter is outside of us, and often it is. It can be systemic racism, it can be sexism, it can be, hatred of the LGBTQ plus community. There are many ways that the lion can be external, but I want to talk about the internal.
Yes.
Not the lion, but that the predator can become the person who is sniffing and trying to snuff out your life force.
Yes.
And that can become you by
Yes.
what you focus on. And so there's a story in the New Testament in the book of Acts, and it talks about broken pieces of a ship. There was a shipwreck, and to make a long story, but an important one short, as we reclaim all of our parts for ourselves, for our valuable and worthy selves. The shipwreck said that some of the people, the story says that in the shipwreck, some of the people got to shore because they could swim. So some of us can swim. We're able in this life that is going on right now. Some of us have more money, we have more energy, we have more resources. We have an ability to navigate. You can go to yoga. You are taking care of yourself differently. And that's wonderful. And I want you to keep doing that. But it says that there were other people in the shipwreck who got back to safety on the broken pieces of the ship. And so what I'm excited about today is that those broken pieces mentally, physically, financially, spiritually, relationally, instead of feeling ashamed of those parts of you, I want you to recognize those are your life vests. That's the flotation device. The things that you threw out and thought were discardable, that someone told you that you needed to be ashamed of. I want you to go in your recycle bin today and recognize that maybe that emotional breakdown you had, that relationship that failed, maybe you dropped the ball and got fired, that instead of being ashamed of your holes, and you probably have heard me say we all have holes, Holes.
That's right.
Right, but light enters through our holes if we aren't ashamed. If we realize that those are the spaces and places of learning, and that what could have been weakness becomes my wisdom. What could have been weakness becomes the platform that allows me to raise myself from the ashes. It is the resurrection, if you will. And it doesn't require money. It doesn't require, that doesn't mean we don't need money. It doesn't mean you don't need a job or deserve to have homes and food. I mean, food insecurity can humiliate, but it is the story you tell yourself about your broken pieces that harms you. It is the story that I tell myself about being hungry. If I tell myself that I'm a failure, instead of actually, I'm a faithful leader, there's a very different outcome if I nourish and nurse and rehearse a story of empowerment than a story that slanders my holes. And so we have holes longing to be whole, which is a holy, Holy journey.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. That is so beautiful. It is so fitting. It is a wonderful place to end this conversation, because as always, there will be another.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you, your time, your giving, your energy. I pray replenishment as you have poured out into our community. I love you forever, and we will talk soon.
Absolutely.
Mind matters.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I mean, Kimberly, thank you. You are such a gift to me. You are a gift to the community. And I mean this, and you are a gift to the world. What you are doing, what you have done, what you are doing in this moment, and what you have been called to seed into the future. We need you, and I need you, and I honor you. I love you. I respect you. I value you. And what we are asking everyone to do this day is to figure out what the work is that your soul, everyone's soul, is asking them to report for active duty.
Yes.
Active duty in their own life first, and then we can give to others from the overflow.
Amen.
From the overflow. Yeah. Thank you so much. And just bless you. Love you more.
Thank you. That's right. Let's go out and be empowered. Have a good day, everybody. Bye.